Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Woodpeckers Live. We're coming to you from my home shop in the basement. We've got John behind the camera. Cameron is on the computer, and Jay and Nancy are answering questions for us. A couple of things we want to talk about before we get started. Today's episode is about the DelVe Square. We want to let you know that we're here to answer your questions. So anytime that you have a question, go over to the right side of your screen on YouTube, type it in, and we'll either answer it online or we'll, if it's something that everybody's interested in, I will address it on air. Also, we want you to subscribe to our channel. That way you'll always be notified when we're having a live event, and or any video that we publish, you'll get notified as soon as it comes up. So today we are going to talk about the DelVe Square, the fancy square with the funny little name. And it started with this one right here. This is the original DelVe Square. It is an all aluminum tool. And the feature that makes this different from pretty much every other square on the market is, John, I'm going to look at the base here. The fact that the blade of the square is not centered in the base. You can see this side is bigger than this side. This is 3/8 of an inch, and this is 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so what does that mean for us when we start laying stuff out? So over here, I've got a piece of 3/4 inch stock. And let's say that I want to lay out a mortise in this. Well, with this 1/4 inch ledge here, when I put that on 3/4 inch stock, that's exactly 1/3 of the material. So I put that there and make a mark. Then I turn it over, put it on the other side, and do the same thing. And now I have perfect thirds, and my mortise is exactly centered on the stock.
Hey, Jeff, where did the name come from?
So where did the name come from? The basic design of this was worked on by a cabinet maker in North Carolina by the name of Tom DelVe. And he and Rich collaborated on the design, worked everything out, and Tom was instrumental in getting that design, so we named it after him. So it's named after Tom DelVe. So that's what the 1/4 inch side does for us. Now, what's the deal with the other side? Well, very often when you're woodworking, you need the exact center of 3/4 inch stock. And that's what the other side does. You put that on, 3/8 of an inch, gets you right at the center. Okay, couple of things I want to talk about with this. This piece that I'm working on right now is as close as I can get it to exactly 3/4 of an inch. So that's going to be dead center. But very often, dead center isn't crucial. What's crucial is always working from the same side. So if I make that mark like this, and then the piece that I'm joining to it, I also mark from the same face, then doesn't matter whether it's perfectly centered or not, it's still going to line up. But there are other times when you really do want to be on the exact center. Okay, let's say that I'm putting something that's a 1/2 inch wide, joining that to something that's 3/4 inch wide, and I want the same reveal on each side. So now I do have to be right at the middle. Well, this still works. So this one is as close as I can get it to right on 3/4 of an inch, and I mark that with a 0. This one is a little bit undersized. Okay, so let's see what happens if we do this on something that's undersized. We take our 3/4 inch mark, and we mark it there. Now, when we come over on the other side, you can see we went by it. And I'll mark it again. Okay, and so it doesn't matter how close to 3/4 it is, the center between those two marks, which is now really easy to find, is the exact center of the board. Same thing happens on this one that is a little bit oversized. Okay, on our oversized board, mark the center. Now, John, you're going to need to come over on this side a little bit more. Okay, so we marked center. Now, when we come over, and now you can see there's a gap. Okay, but same thing as with the undersized one. When I put that mark in, the space between them is just about the width of my pencil, and that is the exact center of the board. So it doesn't matter whether it's a little undersized or a little oversized, you're always going to get the exact center of your board. And that feature is in all 3 of our DelVe squares. Another really cool thing about this is with that 3/4 inch ledge, anytime that I'm laying out a mark, if I am, this is going to be easier to see like this. So let's do it like this. So I want to mark the edge and the face at the same time. I can just come right up that side, right around the corner, and my marks are on exactly the same plane. Okay, so you've got wraparound marking. Very nice feature of that. So that was the original. What's up with the new ones? So we had a lot of people that wanted a little bit more rugged square. And so we decided to do the same concept in a stainless steel body. And when we did that, we decided to make 2 sizes. So that's where the new stainless steel DelVes come from. A couple of features on the bigger one, or excuse me, the newer one. The angle scale on the original DelVe is in 5-degree increments. And on the stainless DelVes, they're in 1-degree increments. And then I'm going to show you a little bit later using the base as a setup block. On the original, there's one thickness this way, and then 3/4 this way, and then the blade is 1/8 of an inch. On the stainless ones, we milled in steps. So that gives you more options for using it as a setup block. Okay.
Hey, Jeff, can you use a regular pencil on the stainless version, or just a mechanical? To use a regular pencil with we're gonna talk right now about the scribing holes. So that was a very timely question. So one of the other features of the DelVe are these holes in the blade, and both versions have them. Okay, and those are designed to make it real simple to scribe your material. So if I want to mark 1 inch from the edge of my board, I'm just going to drop that right in that 1-inch hole. Make sure I got enough lead out, and run the line like that. Now we have people that have problems with that feature, and I'm going to try and alleviate those for you. The first one is a lot of people want to use a regular leaded pencil for this. Doesn't work very well. I have found one pencil sharpener in the entire world that I can find that can put a sharp enough point on a lead pencil or a wooden pencil to use the scribing tools. Just not worth it. You know, get a mechanical pencil. What I like is a 0.7 millimeter. The Woodpeckers sells a 0.9 that works as well. It's a very tight fit in there, but it does fit. And then, you know, the common mechanical pencil is a 0.5. I don't like a 0.5 because I'm ham-fisted, and every time I try and use a 0.5, I break the lead. The 0.7 is just enough heavier that it holds up to my ham-fisted ways. And anytime I want to use that feature, I just drop it in there. The other thing that people struggle with, or maybe don't struggle with, but maybe don't know, is that you really want to keep your pencil straight up and down. Okay, if you keep that pencil straight up and down, it's a lot less likely to break the lead. Where you run into problems is when you try and stick it in at an angle. Okay, now it's going to work because I wanted it to break. All right, you put it in at an angle, either sideways or backwards, and you break your lead right off the bat. Okay, so keep that pencil right straight up and down. A little bit more lead extended than you normally would. And that scribing will work perfectly for you.
Hey, Jeff, what are
Yes.
the two offset ledges again for the?
Okay, so the offset ledge, the little side is 1/4 of an inch, and the big side is 3/8 of an inch. Okay, and then obviously the other big advantage to the big one is simply the fact that it's bigger, and that gives you more room to work. There's a 5-inch from the edge parallel line. So let's talk about the setup block function. So we sell a set of setup blocks, every possible dimension. And once you get used to using these, you find out that it's a great way to set things up because you're not trying to measure something. You put that next to whatever it is you're trying to set up, and you're working strictly by feel. And so these are fantastic. But it's a huge box full of tools. And most of the time, what you really need is not 25, 30 seconds, but you need a standard measurement, 3/4 of an inch, a 1/2 an inch, 1/4 of an inch. Well, we put all of those right in the DelVe square. So instead of digging that out, anytime you need to set up a dimension, it's right in the base of your DelVe square. Okay. For instance, let's come over here to the router table. And I need that to be a 3/8 of an inch. Okay, so I'm using the 3/8 of an inch step. I'm going to bring that right up, and then I'm just going to dial it in until it's just a perfect fit between the edge of that tool and my setup block. Right there. Okay. Now I'm going to run John over to the other side and go over to the table saw. And this is really good on the table saw because with the router bit, it's coming straight up and down. All right. So that's fairly easy to see. But when you're trying to find the exact apex of a saw blade, that can be really tricky. If you're trying to use a ruler, you have no way of knowing whether that ruler is at exact top dead center of your blade. It doesn't matter when you're using something like a setup block because it's covering sideways this way. And so I can just drop that down. And then the tooth that looks closest to being top dead center, I'm going to rotate. And I'm just a little high. And now I'm right on. Okay. And We're running John to death today, all over the shop. Let's say that on my plunge router, I want to set this up for a plunge that's 1/4 of an inch deep, right? I'm going to take the 1/4 inch step. I'm going to put that between, get this where, yeah. Get that right there. Drop my plunge bar down until it hits. And there's my 1/4 inch gap. So we know that's going to plunge exactly 1/4 of an inch. So lots of different places where you can use the setup block function. Now, another little trick I want to show you on this. Actually, I want to come back to the router table for just a minute and show you something not to do with your DelVe square. Remember, anytime you're using this, that the scale on this edge, the 0 point of that scale is, sorry, John, the 0 point of that scale is right here, okay? So I'm just going to tell you something that I did myself that was a bad mistake, and I had to remake a piece of furniture because of it. That is not 1/4 of an inch. That is, or let's see, let's get this back up so we can see what we're talking about. It looks like I've got that set up for 1/8 of an inch right now. It's not 1/8 of an inch, it's 1/4 of an inch because 0 isn't on the table, it's on the top of that ledge. So don't use this scale to set up a router bit or anything else where you're relying on measuring from the bottom. We don't have a scale on here that measures from the bottom, it measures from the inside edge. Okay? Don't ask me how I learned that because it's kind of ugly. That's the only thing that I've ever found that I wasn't really thrilled with, is that there is no reference, there's no measurement from the bottom side. Not a big deal. I got lots of other stuff that does. Now, angles. So there's a scale on the hypotenuse of both of these to show you angles. And when I want to draw something, let's say at a 20-degree angle, we're just going to take it like this, set that at 20 degrees, and there's my 20-degree angle. To make that, particularly when you're laying stuff out like that, very often you've got lots of things that you need to do. And so let me show you a little trick on how to get that repeatable. This is called a stair gauge, and you can get one at Home Depot, Lowe's, any of the big box stores, and you can set that right on the edge of your stock at the angle that you want. See, we got it right on 20 degrees. And now I can measure, I can mark that as many times as I want, and they're all going to be exactly the same angle and exactly parallel. And if I want to flip it over, I can get the complementary angle to that just as easily. Okay, they're inexpensive. You can get them anywhere, and it really makes angle layouts a lot simpler with that. The other,
Hey, Jeff,
yes.
Could you explain the difference between the 6-inch carpenter square and the 6-inch DelVe, which has a benefit over the other, or what?
The 6-inch carpenter square does not have the scribing holes, so you don't have that feature. The carpenter square does not have the offset base. Those are the two big features that come to mind right off the setup blocks. Oh yeah. The carpenter square doesn't have the setup block feature either. And one more thing on measureless marking. So the distance between here and here is 1 inch. So that's a perfect 1 inch. There to there is exactly 3/4 of an inch. There to there is exactly 1/2 an inch. Same thing this way. At 45 degrees, there's 1 inch. There's 3/4 of an inch. There's a 1/2 an inch. And we grab a drill here. All 3 of our DelVe squares also have another feature that is very handy back on our 3/4 inch stock. And that is if I need to drill a hole for mounting hardware right in the middle of that board, this hole right there, John, you got that? So that hole right there is perfectly sized and shaped to guide the end of a self-centering drill bit. So I'm just going to pop that in there just like that. Keep this flush against the face. And there my hole is exactly at the center of my board.
Hey, Jeff, the markings on the stainless blade, how are they applied and will they wear off?
They will not wear off. They are laser engraved. And let's talk about, glad you brought that up, because let's talk about accuracy. So the inch scales on here are engraved with a laser to a tolerance of 0.004 of an inch over the entire length of the blade. That's accumulated stack up air. So if you added all of the air together over the whole thing, it can't be more than 0.004 of an inch. And that is about 1/3 the thickness of this 0.7 pencil lead. So it's not going to, it's going to give you very, very accurate measurements. Now, so we've been looking at all the really cool features of the DelVe square. But let's talk about the most important one, and that is square. It's got to be square. Now, when we check these at the factory, we have a granite table that is periodically calibrated to be perfectly flat. This is not a granite table. This is a 50-year-old table saw that 6 months ago was nothing but rust. And I've cleaned the table as best I can. It has not been machined, but it's reasonably flat. This is a 1281. There's my DelVe square. Now that looks good, but let's see. This is a 1.5 thousandth feeler gauge, and it will not go between those two blades at any point. We didn't clean anything. We didn't dust anything. And we certainly are working on a table that's maybe kind of straight, but that just shows you the accuracy of how the DelVe square is put together.
Hey, Jeff.
Yes, Gary.
Let's see. Does the smaller steel square have any functions that the large one doesn't, or vice versa? Are they the same?
It's just a matter of the convenience. Like the little one is really good to just have in your pocket all the time. The big one is a little less transportable, but it is bigger. So if you're doing larger stuff, it's convenient. The little one, the inside spacing is all the same. It's half here, half here, half here, half here, half here. The big one has the 1 inch, 3/4, and half on the spacing. But technically they're going to do exactly the same thing. It's just which size you like better. For a pocket square, something to just have with you all the time, for me, it's the little steel one or the little aluminum one. Between those two, the aluminum one is a little less expensive. We got any other questions?
Not at the moment.
All right. Well, we appreciate your time today. Our new catalog. Our new catalog is just out. And all you have to do is get on the website, woodpeck.com. Go down to the very bottom of the page. There's a little button there that says request a catalog. We'll mail you one right out. And again, we would appreciate it if you would go down and hit the subscribe button. That way you'll always know whenever we're publishing a video. Now, let's talk about next week. Our cameraman, John, is going to be on vacation next week, so we won't be live, but we will be publishing a video. John and I are going to shoot it on Tuesday, and so on Friday, we'll release it at the same time at 1:30, and I'll be sitting live on YouTube, ready to answer your questions in the comments section. So it won't be the live bar over on the right. It'll be the comments at the bottom. We'll be sitting there live to answer those for you on the hook rules next week. All right. Thanks so much for coming today, and we'll see you next week on Woodpeckers Live.